design in the life of a designer. Obviously, we can see how people are dickheads and get in the way of shit, but let's get back to, the mission at hand. What we primarily talking about on this episode is, designing, well, not designing, but, why I chose designing and why I chose, fashion overall. And the main thing I want everybody to focus in on as we talk about this topic tonight is if you could choose any career, what would make you dedicate your life to it? You feel me? A lot of people don't really think about that when they start, choosing their career paths or, you know, even thinking about if they, have a legit purpose on this planet. But, you know, when I thought about, choosing fashion, it wasn't just about clothing. It was, about finding a way to express my ideas, express my emotions, express, the way my mind was set, within this world that would create something that will last, forever. Fashion, for me is a form of communication. It started out, when my mom started dressing, me and my sister in suits and dresses. Um, me primarily suits and my sister dresses, but the overall thing was is that she wanted us to think in the sense of class and the way we approach how we dressed ourselves. And clothing is one of the first things people notice. You know what I'm saying? It gives your first impression. And that's what my mom's mindset was when, she gave birth to us, when, she was raising us, and all the elements of how she was teaching us. You know what I'm saying? She really would, say, like, even down to our names. Like, I named you this because I thought about how people would think when they first thought of hearing your name. Um, Fashion communicates identity, values, and, confidence without saying words. That's why, I love it the most because it's easier to express your thoughts within the imagery, the words on a T-shirt, or even on a pair of pants or a pair of sneakers or accessories, than it is on an art painting. And I studied art from pretty much fifth all the way to 12th grade. As a designer, you're not just making garments. You're shaping how people present themselves, and even with art, the way they think. Discussing the fact that we have to think about design as more of a language than just a material is a very important key, because I feel like a lot of designers are missing that aspect in how they approach designing pieces and even collections. You know what I'm saying? The main takeaway from all this is that fashion is a visual form of, communication. It's almost like a visual sign language without, the fingers, and even sometimes with the fingers. Why design matters, and especially for me, great design solves problems, creates emotion. Every time that, I got new clothes as a kid, it made me feel better about, myself, and not only myself, but, the situations that we were in. It felt like it was only like, dirt that was on my shoulder versus when I had the clothes, when I had the clothes on, you know what I mean? Every decision from, the silhouette fabric to the colors should have intention. You feel me? It should mean something to somebody every time they look at that piece. Every time they see those hems, those stitchings, those zippers, those buttons, all the way down to the aesthetic of the garment, they should feel something from it. Every collection should have a purpose instead of simply following trends. Because honestly, I feel like As far as with fast fashion, that's what the trends are for. That's for companies like Zara, Sheen, and um, Fashion Nova. You feel me? They're the ones that should be sticking to the trends because they have no true creatives. As designers, we should be the true creators in what we do, how we present different collections and different products. You feel me? That's the main thing. But you know, it all starts with knowing yourself, knowing the mission of your brand, understanding the brand identity, and designing for impact and not just intention and attention. Building something bigger than products is what a fashion brand should represent, a philosophy, not just a catalog. Your collections should fit into a larger creative vision. Like say the Am I Next T collection that I had put together, or the Views from the Trap collection. The Views from the Trap is pretty much just talking about the black community struggles. The Am I Next tees was talking about all Black Lives Matter. You feel me? But every time I design in the sense of intent, and I try to create a certain aura for people to think of themselves in a positive light, regardless of the situation. The importance of consistency across apparel, content, podcasts, and storytelling, regardless of what you're doing, is very important. Because the more consistent that you are with it, and the more that people see it, the more that they believe in what you're doing and want to support it. You're focused on, building a legacy rather than, chasing those short-term successes, those instant gratifications, then you in the right spot. You fucking with the right people, you feel me? Because that's all I'm about. I'm not really worried about those short-term successes. Because literally, I'm sitting here trying to provide not only for myself, but my friends, my sister, and some parts of my family. Lessons fashion has taught me is mainly that you have to have patience. Um, Number one, within the way you live your life, because this industry is already frickled with bullshit just to get in the door. Then on top of that, you know, everybody uh, likes who they like, so it's just a matter of you know being yourself. You feel me? And being patient within the way you work, how you craft your products, and making sure you take your time with every collection, every product. Consistency builds trust. So I done a lot more than have actual viral moments. So the biggest thing is understanding that you can do it too, regardless. Rejection and criticism can only improve your work if you learn from it. And that's all I've ever tried to do along the way. Um, Not a lot of people have piped me up along the way, so I really took in the things that actually made sense as far as what I'm saying, making changes. But I also you know made sure that I understood that hate and criticism were two different things. The journey of becoming a designer never really ends. You feel what I'm saying? And these are the three questions that I really want y'all to think about before the end of the night. Why did you choose the path you're on today? If money wasn't a factor, would you dedicate your life to it? What kind of impact do you want your work to have? These are the three important things that you really got to focus in on when you're starting out, because these are the things that I asked myself when I was at the library for multiple hours looking at different brands, looking at how to build a brand within the industry. And this is what got me along outside of actually honing in my skills with different internships, James Baldwin, being somewhat of a mentor at a certain point in time, and you know, different job experiences. Um, I didn't choose fashion because I wanted to make clothes. I chose fashion because it's a way of storytelling. At first, I had initially just wanted to design sneakers, but understanding, you know, the ability to express something deeper within, not just sneakers, but the clothes itself, and giving me more of an opportunity to do so. I saw that within creating a brand and, you know, leaving something meaningful behind. Every design is an opportunity, to create a product that's more than just a product. It's an opportunity to create purpose in people's lives. And I hope that, taps in with you tonight. I hope that, is able to help you with your creative process moving forward. And I hope you actually start to, design with impact. Hopefully, you become better than me. Keep visualizing your purpose. Like I always say, come together with a solid plan, research, and execute that motherfucker. And I guarantee you, your dreams and goals will come to fruition. Keep visualizing. I'm out.